What's going on, guys? It's your boy Dom Kemp, and this evening we're here with another podcast. I did not know these things were happening today, guys, so I was thinking about a college podcast. Yes, a college football podcast today, but then I changed my mind as soon as I heard that three main players have been inducted into the 2018 Hall of Fame class. One of them, Ray Lewis. Second one, Randy Moss. And third one, Terrell Owens, or T.O., in the Hall of Fame class of 2018. So, guys, we're going to read about this, and I'm going to provide my opinion on how it felt, as well as with Brian Urlacher, Brian Dawkins as well. So, guys, a lot of fantastic defensive players, but two amazing wide receivers in their heyday, in their prime. Beautiful, beautiful. Here we go. Let's jump straight into it. It will be one of the youngest groups in the history of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, and Brian Urlacher were all selected Saturday for enshrinement in the class of 2018. All three players were in their first year of eligibility and joined Terrell Owens and Brian Dawkins as the modern era selections to be enshrined. Those five players joined longtime personnel executive Bobby Bethard, a contributor, and seniors committee nominees Jerry Kramer and Robert Brazili for enshrinement. The Hall of Fame's Board of Selectors met Saturday, the day after Super Bowl 52, to select the class. No, not after. And before Super Bowl 52, my apologies, to select the class. The 15 modern era finalists were trimmed to 10 and then 5. Those 5 finalists were then voted on with a yes or no for enshrinement. The contributor and 2 senior nominees were voted on separately with a yes or no. The Hall of Fame's enshrinement ceremony will be August 4th in Canton, Ohio. It was a day for the 1990s and 2000s NFL, as Owens was the modern era selection who had waited the longest, and he was in just his third year of eligibility. Dawkins was in his second year of eligibility. Lewis was the most decorated of the group as a 13-time Pro Bowl selection, a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and a Super Bowl MVP in his career as a Baltimore Ravens linebacker. And I quote, "I've been going a long time, and now I can finally rest," Lewis said. "I want to go fishing with a cigar now and just sit back. I don't want to work out every day now." And I quote, "Growing up as a child, I know what a Hall of Fame middle linebacker looked like. Mike Singletary, Dick Butkus, who dreams of being in that category sitting with those guys?" Lewis started 227 games in his career and was credited with eight 100 tackle seasons. Lord. For 17 years, we could point to number 52 and tell the other players follow his lead, practice like Ray practices, prepare like Ray prepares, be a great teammate like him. Ravens general manager and executive vice president Ozzie Newsome said in a release from the team, "It was our privilege to have him as a Raven. We are all better for having him here. His play on game day speaks for itself." Even in that small group who have the honor of being a Hall of Famer, Ray stands out. When you talk about the great players of all time, no matter position, he is among the greatest of the great. Moss, who played for 5 teams in his career, is second all-time in touchdown receptions with 156 and has 8 1,200-yard seasons in his career. He played 7 full seasons and part of another in Minnesota, site of Sunday's Super Bowl. And I quote, "The door knocked and I started getting excited," Moss said of Hall of Fame President David Baker, alerting him he has been elected. "All the emotions got the best of me because it had been a long journey and it ends in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tears of joy." Okay, guys. Man, for the first time in the podcast, we're going to listen to some sound of how he felt. Hopefully. Let's see. Oh, come on, baby. Come on.
Best players, coaches, and contributors to ever play this game. And sincerely thank you for all you've done for this game. Congratulations, brother. Love you, man.
That is Ray Lewis, okay?
Room service.
Randy Moss.
Goodness. Congratulations, brother. Welcome to Canton, Ohio.
Ryan Dawkins. That is so awesome, man. That is just so cool. That's awesome. Brian Urlacher, I think. Wow, that's awesome, man. Years of practice, years of hard work, and these 5 players, Brian Dawkins, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Ray Lewis, and Brian Urlacher, all submitted into into the Hall of Fame, where they will be immortalized as football legends. Amazing, guys. Amazing. Not one person from that group, in my opinion, is excluded. Not one person, in my opinion. But we will continue. Let's keep on going. Here it is. In the days leading up to Saturday's selection meeting, some wondered if Urlacher would be chosen in the same class as Lewis, as 2 high-profile players at the same position in largely the same era. The athleticism and production of the former Chicago Bears middle linebacker tipped the scales. Urlacher was an 8-time Pro Bowl selection and the league's Defensive Player of the Year in 2005. My apologies. And no one's a finalist for the past 3 years, had been a hot-button candidate, with his own public criticisms of the board of selectors after he had not been chosen for the Hall in 2016 or 17. A third-round draft selection of the San Francisco 49ers in 1996. Owens ranks 8th all-time in receptions, 1,078. Second in receiving yards, 15,935. And third in receiving touchdowns, 153. He played for the 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, Buffalo Bills, and Cincinnati Bengals in a career that spanned 15 years. And I quote, Terrell Owens gave our organization 8 great seasons of service and some terrific memories that will live on in 49ers lore. CEO Jed York said in a statement congratulating the 6-time Pro Bowler. He is one of the most accomplished wide receivers in the history of the NFL and very deserving of the selection to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Owens, who is the only player to score a touchdown versus each of the current 32 teams, acknowledged his selection Saturday in an Instagram post featuring a Hall of Fame hat. Beautiful hat, actually, by the way. Dawkins played 13 of his 16 NFL season for the Eagles, who will face the New England Patriots in Sunday's Super Bowl, a 9-time Pro Bowl selection. He was a rare player to have finished a career with at least 35 interceptions and 20 sacks. And I quote, this is tremendous news, and I could not be more proud of Brian. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame is an honor he truly earned. Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie said he epitomized everything we love about the game of football. His intensity, his passion, his love of the game, and his leadership were always dialed in at the highest possible level. And I quote, he connected in every possible way with the city of Philadelphia and our legion of Eagles fans across the country. But no former player waited longer for enshrinement than Kramer, who played his last season with the Green Bay Packers in 1968. He was the only guard selected to the NFL's 50th anniversary team and was lead blocker for one of the league's iconic plays in the Packers sweep. Kramer also cleared the way for Hall of Famer Bart Starr to score the winning touchdown in the Ice Bowl, the Packers' 21-17 win over the Cowboys in the 1967 NFL championship game. And I quote, in the old days when the quarterbacks called their own plays, since most of them were right-handed, they called most of the plays to the right. So the defense would put their best men on that half of the field. Therefore, Jerry Kramer, as a right guard, played against the best defensive tackle every week. He still made All-Pro 5 times, said former Packers linebacker and 2013 Hall of Fame inductee David Robinson. Brazili was a 7-time Pro Bowl selection, as well as 4-time first-team All-Pro. The player known as Dr. Doom was named to NFL's All-Decade Team of the 70s. Beathard was a personal executive for 5 teams in his career, including Super Bowl winners in the Miami Dolphins and Washington Redskins. He was part of 10 division winners and 4 Super Bowl winners overall, including the 1972 Dolphins team that finished undefeated. Because it takes an 80% yes vote for a finalist to earn enshrinement, the votes sometimes cancel each other out if players are clustered at one position group. With 2 wide receivers in Owens and Moss, as well as 2 linebackers in Lewis and Urlacher selected for enshrinement, it was a difficult day for 5 former offensive linemen who were finalists. Joe Jacoby didn't make the cut from 15 finalists to 10, while Tony Baselli, Alan Faneca, Steve Hutchinson, and Kevin Maway did not make the cut from 10 remaining modern era finalists to 5. Jacoby and former cornerback Everson Walls were both in their final year of eligibility as modern era candidates. They now move to the seniors category and can only be considered for enshrinement if the seniors committee selects them as a nominee. A difficult proposition with the current backlog. Walls had not made the cut from 10 to 5. Former Patriots cornerback Ty Law was also eliminated in the cut down from 10 to 5. Wide receiver Isaac Bruce, running back Nigerian, hopefully I said it correctly, James, and safety John Lynch were eliminated in the cut down from 15 to 10. And I quote, "I'm glad I didn't have to vote for this class," Urlacher said. "It's a great class." As for next year's, tight end Tony Gonzalez, cornerback Champ Bailey, and safety Ed Reed will be in their first year of eligibility. So guys, pretty interesting speaking about these amazing players being enshrined in just greatness. It's just amazing to think about, guys. It is amazing to think about. So guys, I'm going to leave this podcast short because I have another podcast coming soon. Right after this one, and it's going to be about the NFL honors, guys. Yes, they happened today, so I will be definitely making a podcast on this as well. But other than that, I thank you guys for listening to this podcast. How do you guys feel about this class? My opinion, guys, they really couldn't have picked a better class with Terrell Owens, with Randy Moss, Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, and Brian Dawkins from the I was about to say the Seahawks, from the Philadelphia Eagles back in the day. Probably one of the most hardest hitting safeties of all time. Greatest safeties of all time, I wouldn't say that, but he was the hardest hitting. He's like, he was like the Cam Chancellor of now. He was amazing. He hit hard. Every hit he had, he killed. Whether it was the quarterback, the wide receiver, the tight end, even the running back, he did not care. And I love that about how the Philadelphia Eagles played back then. But guys, I will be bringing another podcast to you guys tonight. This is Double Upload Saturday. On the weekends, I do like to double upload due to the fact that there's so much content throughout the day on the weekends because so many people are at home chilling and things of that sort. So I thank you guys for listening to this podcast. How do you feel about the draft class, guys? I feel like they picked the right people. They really couldn't have been better, guys. Trust me. And maybe next year, Tony Gonzalez, Champ Bailey, Ned Reed, man, these are the reasons these players are Hall of Famers, because they are getting inducted into monster classes, guys. Amazing. But other than that, I thank you for listening to this podcast. Once again, I will be coming back a little bit later with another podcast. I know it's late at night in Pennsylvania right now. It's 11 o'clock there. It's 9 o'clock here. But those of you who are true supporters of the podcasting channel, you don't care what time it is because you guys are night owls. So thank you for that. That is it, though. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace out, guys.